The Utah Department of Transportation began construction on the South Layton Interchange project in August of 2009. Accelerated bridge construction was used to reduce the project from 2 years to 15 months.
The reason why accelerated bridge construction was important to this project was because we needed to reduce the amount of impact to the traveling public on I-15 as much as possible. We reviewed it initially, seeing if we should go with accelerated bridge construction or just do your typical standard cast in place over the interstate. And when we evaluated it, we determined that accelerated bridge construction would provide the least amount of impact to the traffic on I-15, that it would reduce how many times we'd have to close the road or reduce the lanes so they could keep the traveling lanes that they needed for, to get where they needed to go. Yeah, the process of moving the bridge out over the interstate, initially they built that west span on some temporary supports. They had to put some extra material on the new roadway in which they built to get the initial settlement of the existing ground out. So at the same time as they had all that material up on the roadway, or surcharge that we call it, that's where they had to build the bridge, and they knew that eventually all that material or the surcharge had to be removed, so they built the bridge on temporary supports. When the surcharge was ready to be removed, they were able to get equipment underneath the bridge, remove that material, but then the bridge is sitting way up here and they needed to get it lowered down to where they could push it across the interstate. And so then they brought in jacking blocks, and the jacking blocks were stacked up to where they could support the weight of the bridge. The temporary supports could be removed. Now once they're on those jacking blocks, then they have a process in which they can lower the bridge by slightly lifting it up, removing some of the jacking blocks out, and then slowly lowering the bridge down. Once they had it lowered where they needed it to push it across, they set up skid tracks, or tracks in which the supports that were holding the bridge, hydraulic rams could push the bridge across the interstate on those skid tracks. So once the bridge is in place and they got it set in place where it needs to be, eventually they'll cut off those H-piles at the bottom of at the ground level where we don't need them anymore, have it removed, and then we can finish building the road and the rest of the bridge.
On August 7, 2010, the western span of the interchange was launched into place. The bridge launch took less than 5 hours to complete. Two weeks later, the project team successfully launched the eastern span into place to complete the structure.